It's a pleasure to be in conversation with Nandita Das. I'm Seema Chishti. Nandita, welcome to The Wire.
Thank
And
you.
I've known Nandita for like a long time, watched her work for over 3 decades, and her transition from various roles that she did as a theatre person and then in cinema as an actor. Nandita, you were an educationist. You've taught as well. You did a master's in social work, and then her forays into film direction were very rewarding and rewarding for viewers, I'm sure, and for you. And we have a third film that she has directed, Zwigato, which is on the cards and set for release on the 17th of March. So, Nandita.
Long, winding journey.
Brilliant journey. Yeah, many roles, a kaleidoscope of things that you put out for us. At the heart of Zwigato, I haven't seen the film. I've enjoyed the trailer, been intrigued by it. It's a very moving trailer in many ways. You've got working class people, a person at the center of it. When we look back at Hindi cinema, a lot of popular good cinema, you look at Diwar, Mazdoor.
Yeah,
You start
pehle
the
to thi.
trade union leaders who were
Absolutely.
heroes, So the heroine may have been the Malik ki beti, but the heroes were working
Always.
class. What happened? We lost it.
Totally,
And then-
totally. No, I totally agree. 2 बीघा ज़मीन, वो रिक्शा वाला है, कोई मिल वर्कर है.
Correct.
You know, the people
Who were the stars?
who were the stars, who were the protagonists, and we as audiences were interested in knowing about their life. But I think we've just become too much sort of into navel gazing. Aspirations have grown with the advent of technology, whether you can reach anywhere or not. The aspirations have become much more consumeristic in some sense. You know, it's become about being richer, getting there, traveling to foreign countries. So I think slowly our protagonist sort of dances in Cape Town and eats in New York or whatever, and it's true that the working class or the whole subaltern culture is just vanishing. And maybe because people don't want to see it. I don't know. Isn't it happening also in print and in, rural pages from magazines and newspapers are diminishing. So I think there is, unless something sensational happens, it feels like it's not a story worth telling.
Oh, that's very interesting you put it that, that maybe there's a degree of escapism. So that was always there in cinema. The excuse given by our popular directors was that we're producing for the masses, as it were,
Yeah.
for the tired rickshawala, they would say, famously or infamously, who has no time or energy to reflect on
But
sadness.
it wasn't only the rickshawala, it was across class, right?
So it was not as if they were unhappy films necessarily, not
Yeah.
portraying misery. Even the films that say Basu Chatterjee puts out, or the 70s.
Sai Paranj Pe,
Sai Paranj Pe,
yeah.
Rajnigandha, Choti,
ऋषिकेश मुखर्जी की फिल्में.
kitni filmein. So what happened after that from the 90s onwards, you see, as you said, Cape Town, you straddled Cape Town, London, New York, and nothing less would do. So from there to making Zwigato, what made you think of putting somebody completely not otherwise seen as hero material in a mainstream film, if I may use that phrase, as the central character?
So I think anyway, I have never really been in the industry. So I'm not even a good person, the right person to pass any judgment or to be able to see a pattern, because I don't watch that many films and I don't know enough about it, always having worked on the periphery of it. And what has always interested me are just what we call ordinary stories, about ordinary people. And because I think they've just all become so invisible. Like even through COVID, which is when Zwigato was born, was just that there were so many people who were kind of serving us and making our lives more convenient, but we didn't know anything about them. We were just seeing hordes of people walking for miles when the migrant workers were going back to their homes. And a place like Bandra, which is where I stay, is always seen as this very posh colony. It's supposed to be the 50 coolest colonies in the world. I didn't know that. And you always think of, acha, Salman Khan rehte hain, yahan par Shah Rukh Khan rehte hain, ye hota hai, wo hota hai. But there is also a whole, like all these people, the working class people who also have their homes in Bandra so that they can work in these big homes. And where are their stories? So I think it was born at that time when we were all ordering on our apps. We were learning to be savvier on it. And we would see these guys with different colored t-shirts. And they are not from those traditional working spaces where they were colleagues or a boss or, you learn from each other. Here you're literally on your own with this phone. And the way the algorithm works, the incentive and rating and what it does to people, nobody really knows, so they're all grappling with that. So I think that was just very intriguing. It started with a conversation with a publisher friend of mine who's also, he's also co-written this with me, Sameer Patil, and we had this discussion of just growing unemployment. It started with that. And then it sort of came into the gig economy, that being a savior, but also seeing what are the challenges of being in it. And when I was casting, I just felt, were you asking about casting or were you just asking about
Go on about casting now that you have, from protagonist to cast is just fine.
Because that's a question that everybody asks me, like, why Kapil? And,
This is Kapil Sharma, for those of our viewers who don't know.
Yeah. Kapil Sharma, very popular comedian who hosts this comedy show that I've never seen because I don't have a TV, and anyway, I'm not sort of big watcher of television or whatever. So I'd never seen him, and then he popped up on my screen with, he was presenting some award function with Karan Johar, and he just seemed most natural and unassuming and was sharing stories of ordinary people as if he was still ordinary, whereas he doesn't live that life anymore. So there was something endearing about him, and I got his number. My casting director was also like, are you crazy? Like, what are you even thinking? And Kapil was also actually shocked when I met him. He said, "Aapne mere bare mein kyun socha is role ke liye? Matlab, kaise socha? Nobody would."
Did he worry that he wasn't funny enough?
No, in fact, he was itching to do. I think, we're all labelled so much. Like, I'm labelled to be this serious person, who's sort of serious actor, serious director, some intellectual, does films that not too many people want to watch, etc. So I think seemingly we came from very different worlds, but now having interacted and worked, actually we're not that different, and many of our concerns are also similar, and I also laugh a lot, in contrary to perception.
And is he a serious guy?
Serious. Yeah, exactly. He can be very serious, contrary again to perception. So yeah, it was.
So tell me a little bit about your engagement with him on the set. So he'd walk in, and I presume there would be a titter and a laugh because others know who Kapil Sharma is.
Of course, no. I mean, I know, but like I just didn't know the persona.
Yeah.
Like I remember once he came up to me in the middle of the shoot because people were going crazy, and I was like saying, "You have to hurry up, and we have to do this and all that." He just came to me. He said, "पता है आपकी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आपको पता ही नहीं मैं कितना बड़ा स्टार हूँ." So I said, अच्छा है ना, नहीं पता है तभी तो काम कर पा रहे हैं अच्छे से. So yeah, so no, he's very easygoing, and coming on time in the morning is a struggle, but once he's there, then I don't think he wants to leave. And Odisha was a good place to shoot because they haven't seen that many of, especially Hindi films haven't been shot there. So if you tell people to back off a bit or not take photographs, and they actually listen. Like he was telling me, if we had shot this in Punjab or Haryana or UP or anywhere in the north or west, it would have been completely crazy.
And it's such a beautiful state.
It's a beautiful city. We shot all of it in Bhubaneswar, and all my life I've told people I'm not a Bengali. I'm not really regionalistic, but somehow that question sort of makes me feel nahi, but I'm Odia, I'm half Odia, half Gujarati. Aapne mujhe kisi teesri state ka bana diya hai, which is, I'm an adopted child of Bengal, which I'm happy to be. But the point was that I also wanted to show a different state. So many of our films are just situated in those typical or much seen places. The diversity that we keep talking about our country is seldom actually seen. So I just hope that people will also shoot in places that they are more familiar with, or where they grew up, or not that I grew up in Odisha, but it's a city I go often.
Yeah.
I still go often, and I always feel like, wow, what a charming city, and no one's shot here. So it'll look familiar, and yet it'll look like ye kahan par hai.
Lovely. So there are things I want to talk to you about your work and your life, but my last question on the film really, and the theme, because it's a very interesting theme, the delivery boy, the delivery person, they stand at the junction of precarity, working class woes, and the possibility of the internet and the algorithm. So how did you think that you brought things out in ways which are better than how a documentary would have done?
Right. I mean, initially I was tempted to put in lot more information that I had gathered, and one is always tempted to say, ye to bahut important hai, people must know about this, that they have to buy their own t-shirt and bags, for instance, that you would imagine कि ये तो marketing tool है, why should these people have to buy them? But the fact is that they have to. Or when you go out of the zone, you are paid for the petrol, but to come back to the zone you're not. So what happens to those who are sent out far away to deliver, and why should they be going their petrol to come back, etc. But I didn't want to make it didactic. It's not a manual on gig economy. There is no blame game. If you see Firak, Manto, you know, Zogato, all of this, they're not sort of trying to put the blame on someone except for showing the mirror to us, to our prejudices and, you know, our navel gazing or whatever it may be. So this is also more about us, that, you know, if the companies want them to deliver in a very short time, it's because we want this grocery. What is so important that you want it in 15 minutes or 20 minutes? You know, you're ready to get that person to be sort of having an accident at the cost. So at what cost are we doing all of this? So really the gaze is always on us, and that's been my theme about it. Sorry, I kind of lost the question.
No, you answered it perfectly and more. So, Nandita, coming back, zooming out to Zogato, as it were, and moving on to your life and your
But
career.
can I just, sorry, just a thought that I want to just share on this, that it's not only about the gig economy. In fact, that is for me what was interesting when I was writing the script and when I was writing the dialogues and all of that, that while it is about this food delivery rider and his family, I realized that if you're telling a 4-day story about anybody, if you're true to their context, you can actually tell the story about many different things. So also the disparities in gender, because you're still operating in a patriarchal society, even though you're rooting for your protagonist and he's a good man who loves his wife, his children, wanting to make ends meet, but yet he's operating in that patriarchy. He is going to have certain perceptions about these. The disparities in caste, the disparity in religion, the disparity in class, all of these, you know, the prejudices that exist in all these, which we have kind of normalized, which have become sort of invisible. The idea was also to be able to sort of show all of this that's sort of hidden in plain sight, as I often say, that, you know, it's to visibilize that too. So it's not only about the gig economy. Just wanted to
No, that's so important.
that.
Because, you know, as they say, like, you know, at a time of great stress, etc., just telling the truth, or 2 + 2 being equal to 4 is a revolutionary act. So I think just kind of talking about it and putting it all out is quite dramatic.
Just
and
reminding us,
yes,
you know,
of
just
what
sort of,
all
making
is
us
hidden
a little
in plain
more sensitive
sight. Yeah,
about it.
yeah. So, Nanta, now there's a lot of there's so much happening in the world, everything. I mean, society, politics, international, national, everything seems to be in a fluxy, in a kind of it's all whipped up these days.
Right.
And there is this whole role of the creative person in that. So, and it seems as if sort of Indian creative people or even Indian sports persons have a different view from what we've seen otherwise in maybe other democracies. You have sportsmen taking a knee. You have Gary Lineker kind of coming out and criticizing the migration policy of the United
people
Kingdom.
are using their privileges to actually
make a point.
And talk about things that they care about.
Why do we see so little of that in India? Is there something holding us back as a society, or is it something peculiar to people in the creative fields that they feel more unsure of speaking their mind? It's not about taking a political position, but speaking their mind and speaking for people who may not be able to voice their thoughts.
I mean, I've often asked that question to myself, because even big Hollywood stars are taking stands.
Meryl Streep spoke.
Absolutely. And at Oscars and, you know, at Grammy and all of that, they're using their privileges, they're using the power that they have, the power of influence that they have to talk about things that matter, you know. And I don't know, we're doing less and less. Earlier also, I don't think that was something that we did often enough, right, in our fields. I don't know if it's got to do with colonization, where हमारी मिट्टी में एक थोड़ा subservient होने की बात है. Also, I think in our country, economics kind of interferes with almost everything, whether it's, you know, freedom in journalism, whether it's in art, whether it's in films, in all of that. So this thing of compromising कि चलता है, ये जो जुगाड़ूपना है कि, you know, और
जैसे निकल जाए,
हाँ निकल जाए, अपना काम बन जाए, you know, shortcut ले लें, you know, all that is maybe a little too much. Maybe there are more skeletons in people's cupboards, so there's a sense of fear कि बोल देंगे तो पता नहीं क्या होगा.
Too much to lose. I mean, is there any strength in that argument that I have too much to lose, I have too much fame, too big a house, too much of land?
Possibly, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's anybody's guess. Your guess is as good as mine. But, you know, possibly it's difficult to... I think you have to have deep convictions to begin with.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have deep conviction, then the courage follows. Now, you may choose not to say for certain reasons, because, for instance, someone asked me, why are you not so active on Twitter? right? And there was a time when I was very active and I would comment on things, but I just feel our society has become increasingly so polarized that now is a time to have conversations. It's not a time to just, I don't need to prove I'm liberal, I'm secular, I'm a feminist, I'm this, I'm that. It's not important. Yeah. I should know who I am and how do I engage with those who may have differing ideas. How do I listen more? How do we not have shutters down,
Talk, break bubbles and make bridges.
Exactly. So I'm more interested, and I just feel to take very strident stands sometimes actually alienates people. Then you stop listening, then you stop engaging. And the more conversations we have, and the conversations can really truly be a conversation, not an argument, if both parties are listening and both parties are open and they are not coming with too much of that baggage. So I think at least that's my reason to not try and be too strident. And I've done those jhanda wala things also, and I've gone through my internal phase where I want to do it through my work. I want to find ways to be more nuanced about those conversations, or through the cinema that I want to do. It's not about big thing. Even this is a slice of life. It's nothing very dramatic that is happening. It's about small acts of indignations. It's about how your dignity gets chipped away every day in ways that you can't even see. So it'll also depend on the audiences. How much are they going to get moved is dependent, or get impacted by it will depend on how sensitive. I'm sorry to put all the, like my film is good, bad, ugly, and there are, it is what it is. So maybe if I have to do it all over again, I'd be most delighted. But the point is, it'll probably, the feedback will reflect more about what people, how much they want to engage with such stories. Do they have the time and patience to even see something that, these people who are just nameless, faceless.
It's very interesting that you say this, because there's a film called The Help, which was released sometime back, which is about a nanny. It's a black woman who is kind of bringing up children of another woman. Essentially, a practice that is so rampant.
Exactly.
A lot of us would not be able to bring up our children but for that.
Absolutely.
But it got zero reception because we chose not to see. So, it didn't take off at all in India.
Really?
So, I think that's what you're saying, that receptivity is like really a very
because it
important part of
depends.
the mix.
We are also used to so much drama. Like till the emotions are not sort of really
wrung out of you,
Kleenex. Or exactly next out of you, or like manipulative. That kind of cinema, maybe it works. Maybe that's what people want. Maybe we've all become so numb to so much that we want all of that to be able to feel we are alive, that we are human. But I think there are enough people who are, because at least the reception that we got at the Toronto Festival or Busan or Kerala, or the few people who've seen, even among our cast and crew, the few people who've seen, they always feel like, somehow something has shifted within me. I don't look at people the same way. I notice the food delivery riders much more. When I'm coming up, I'm not just saying, hey, watchman. I want to be able to ask their name, or just meet the eye, or just acknowledge people's existence, if nothing else.
The power of visibilization.
Yeah, so hopefully, I'm hoping that people will connect. And you've seen the trailer, the response to the trailer has been good.
Nice.
And people are feeling that they want to be moved. I think most people want to be moved, actually, Even
we are humans at the end of it, so you want something that kind of,
that engages you.
There's a lot of conversation about Iranian films, Latin American films that grew out of tremendous repression, and so struggle leads to good art. That's the eternal kind of question. But
learning the hard way,
and you're put through a hard time, you'll produce good films. Right. Is that happening in India?
Not yet, but
are you hopeful?
I'm hopeful
that if we have a certain kind of situation, we'll have certain kind of good films. You think?
Well, that's too hard a way. I wish that such situations they don't. They don't. Just for good cinema, we don't want hard situations. I wish we would learn the lesson sooner and would just make films.
So that's like too much to kind of wish for in order to get a good film.
Absolutely.
Also like talk back on that.
Is greater than life itself and people and all of that. So, let all cinema perish and, let life flourish and let there be more independence of thought. I wish there would be a time where independent cinema, why do we call it independent cinema? where you don't have the pressures of money and the, how it should be made and parameters. Otherwise, it would become a science. The fact cinema is part of the arts, there's a reason for it, right? It is an alchemy. It is more than the sum total of its parts. It is something beyond just this, that, and the other. And you can't put do chammach of drama and do chammach of, item song or whatever and violence, etc. It is something else. Yeah. So I hope there'll be more room and space for people to be creatively tells these stories and to show the reality. I mean, the reality is not one reality. Everybody has a different reality. And that's why there are endless number of stories that this, especially a country that is so diverse in so many ways, could actually produce. I mean, why are we just taking each other? I mean, we could also adapt. There's nothing wrong with it as long as it reaches people. But why are we not so imaginative?
Yeah. That's a lovely note to end this on. So
no, that isn't. It's a pessimistic
note.
No,
it's a very good
Let's
note.
Make it more
here's
optimistic.
To more stories, more imagination.
I think as many people, that many stories, and I hope, here's to more stories that we can tell and bring out the reality. And I feel like we've just reduced cinema to an entertainment business. I mean, for me to be engaged as a viewer, I'm talking now. For me to be engaged is far more important, and maybe for me that is entertainment. Yes. If I can be engaged, if I can take back something with me where I'm not saying this is appealing to my head but not to my heart or vice versa. Actually head and hearts are deeply connected, and they're all here actually. There isn't anything that you really feel. You feel it all here. So I wish...
You're a headist, clearly. Yeah.
Well, no, I keep talking about the heart all the time, and I want, but but something that draws us in a way that we may not even be aware of, but subconsciously. Because after all, you and I are what we watched and what we read and the people we met, and a mix of all of that, and we're not consciously learning, but all of that does impact our choices and our responses to things.
Thank you so much for adding your mix to that lovely ocean, the Haroon and the Sea of Stories,
for
having added a big fish to that sea. Thank you so much, Nandita. Thank you for being on The Wire.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.